This is the story of three friends and close-by neighbors. All of them good guys and each with a classic car. However, all the cars are different styles. You wouldn't expect them to be all the same. I caught up with them last November. Let's start with Martin's 1959 Chevy Bel Air. Like a lot of classics, Martin's Chevy is absolutely original and in excellent shape. He's owned it for close to 4 years. Here's Martin's story.
I used to, well, and I still do, go on eBay a lot, and I found the car on eBay. And it was a good price. I was able to afford it, and I bought it. The car comes from Alabama. I imported it from the U.S., and here she sits.
But there's more to the story than that.
I always loved the 59 Chev. I was born in 59, so I kind of had a kinship with this car. And it took me a long time to get it, but I finally got one.
I asked Martin if this car arrived as we see it, or if he had more work to do on it.
Basically, the outside of the car, I've hardly done any work. The inside, I had the engine and the transmission all redone. The interior had work done on it. I had a new carpet put in and a new headliner. The seats are original on the car. Amazing for a car that's, almost 60 years old, and there's no rips or tears or anything in the material.
Aside from the white top, the car is a tan brown. Looks like a little copper may have been added. It's a color I'd never seen before.
Well, you know what? That's a mystery. Because one of the previous owners had this car repainted. Originally it was a cream color all over, and the gentleman or whoever had it repainted. He picked a beautiful color, and I actually get a lot of compliments on it.
The exterior complements the interior perfectly. Whoever chose that color had a good eye.
I just lucked out, I guess, with the way the inside looks. With the help of the restoration place that did the work, we chose, the carpet and everything that matched, and it looks great. The door panels are original on this car. The bottom portions of the door panels over years of use frayed, and this car was no exception to that. And we came up with a plan of putting carpeting on the bottom to cover all those little imperfections on, and turned out great.
This Chevy is a pretty standard car. Power steering, power brakes, AC has been added. As for the 283 engine, JR Restorations had some work to do.
There was many leaks. They removed the engine and the transmission and changed all the seals. So now she's practically leak-free.
Martin's 1959 Chevy Bel Air, a great car. But before we move on, here's a look at Martin's Man Cave Garage. He spends a lot of time here in the summer. Now, here's a look at Ray's 65 Corvette.
Back in March of 2010, I started looking around. I had a 1979 Corvette for about 32 years. And I was looking around. I've always wanted a C2. And I was looking around and looking around. I went on to eBay. I went into a lot of websites. And I found this one up in Bay City, Michigan.
This car was on consignment at a dealership. He liked what he saw, and he bought the car. Here are the specs.
327, 350 horse. It's an L79 engine. It's got a 4-speed transmission on it, and it's got a 308 rear end on it. It's been all refurbished, and was refurbished back in '92 by R&M in Blenheim.
This Corvette was originally sold in the U.S., later bought in Canada, sold back to the U.S., and now it's back in Canada again.
As you see, the car is what I got, and that's what it is. I haven't had any problems with the car whatsoever.
Ray has always loved Corvettes, but only one model captured his imagination.
I've always wanted a C2, all the time. Body style. When I was 18, I loved them. And now I'm 70, and I still love them.
The thing about these high-performance cars is they have to be driven.
I I take it on an expressway, and a lot of people say, why do you take that kind of car on an expressway? But I give it a good run on a Sunday afternoon. I'll take it down 401 and I'll go down to Manny Road and I'll drive it. I'll drive at 70, 80 miles an hour down the road. And that's what I do. I just, once a week I'd like to take it out and give it a really, really good run.
As production cars go, not a lot of these were made.
This car was produced in November of '64. I have the documentation on that, and I have all the documentation for R&M when they did the rebuild on it back in '92.
That's the story of Ray's '65 Corvette. What a car. Now for another original classic, a 1931 Pontiac in like-new condition. Meet Bob. He's the owner of this superb classic. And like Martin and Ray, Bob has a story to tell.
I wanted to have a car that I could take my children on a picnic and enjoy the day, maybe pick apples in the fall or what have you. But by the time I got it repaired for the road, they had all grown up and didn't want to go. So I kept it. And it's been 30-odd years now that I've owned it.
For Bob, buying this classic Pontiac was a practical decision at the time.
It was a four-door with a back seat that would hold my two daughters and my wife and I in the front. So it was perfect for that. And it had a trunk on the back, which would hold the picnic basket. So that's the reason, just simple logic.
There are always plenty of compliments and thumbs up. It's a car that really stands out in a crowd.
The color is something. It's a unique color, and actually it's a British MG color from the 60s. It's actually an MGB color from British Leyland paints. So the orange is that, and the wheels are springtime yellow, which is a color from General Motors color. So, and I find that it goes well together.
Bob has owned this car since 1984.
And it was roadworthy by 1985 in the fall, just in time for apple picking.
Bob's laugh and personality makes everyone smile. There was a little work to do, but Bob didn't mind that.
Some of it had been repaired. It was from Victoria, BC. The fellow there couldn't finish it. His wife said either the car goes or he goes. So he decided the car goes. And I picked it up on an Auto Trader magazine and bought it. And he pulled it out here on a trailer, and we made a deal. And it was mine to fix after that.
Getting the car roadworthy required making a few connections.
Paint the fenders. We did a valve job on the motor. Checked out the brakes. Some trim here and there, parts and pieces. Went to a few swap meets and picked up the extra lights on the bumper, but nothing much. I mean, it was all there, fortunately, because of the good weather that was the West Coast.
The engine is the original 6-cylinder L-head, and it runs like a top. When Bob bought the car, the interior was done, and it looks great.
Well, it's reminiscent of the era, exactly the way it was. It's new. It's a new fabric, but a velour, and but the way the pockets in the door are sewn and the buttons and all of that was the original style. Even with the curtains that are in the back window, they were a part of the car.
You know, there's only 29,000 original miles on this car, and Bob says he only puts about 150 miles a year on it. It makes him laugh.
Honestly, that's all. The insurance costs $160 and the mileage is $150, so it cost me $1 a mile to insure it. So, but yeah, I'll take it to church once in a while, or again, we just maybe drive around on Riverside Drive or go for a little cruise, but nothing much.
So, how do you park a classic car in a single-car garage when you have two cars? Well, the answer's simple. You add a lift. The classic goes on top and the daily driver parks underneath. thanks to all three amigos, Martin, Ray, and Bob, for telling their car stories. And thank you for viewing. Stay well, and as always, we'll see you at the car shows and cruise nights.